In this lesson, we'll continue a review of Writing Test 10, Section 2. We're still on the first passage, How a Cat in a Hat Changed Children's Education. We're on question 5. And if you recall in the previous paragraph, Spalding recommended Theodore Geisel, who was known as Dr. Seuss, to write these children's books that would capture the interest of the young readers. Having known Spalding for many years and having maintained a professional relationship with him, Geisel was an experienced writer and illustrator. So question 5, which choice best supports the information that follows in the sentence? So we have the second part of the clause that he was an experienced writer and illustrator. This is an example of an evidence-based question. Some students might look at this and say, well, if Spalding knew him and maintained a professional relationship, doesn't that seem to fit? Well, even if that's true, remember the second part of the clause, you can't change it. And the reason he was selected, he was experienced writer and illustrator. And these evidence-based questions, you want evidence of his experience as a writer and illustrator. The professional relationship is not relevant here. Again, this is one of these evidence-based questions. So what would reinforce that he was an experienced writer and illustrator? It's not the relationship. Acquired a reputation for perfectionism and for setting high standards in his work. You know, there's not, I don't think, enough evidence to really support this. Let's just keep reading. Been interested in politics before breaking into the game of children's literature. This is definitely off, right? Nothing about politics. Published 9 children's books and having received 3 nominations for prestigious Caldecott Medal. And so between B and C, remember he was selected to write a children's book. And experienced writer and illustrator who had experience writing children's book, this looks really good. It definitely looks better than his reputation for perfectionism. Nothing really about children's books. Experienced writer and illustrator. D is definitely the best choice. So if you don't see that, you really need to practice those because it's a common type of question, these evidence-based problems. However, this new project presented him with an obstacle. Spalding told Geisel to write his entire book using restricted vocabulary from an elementary school list of 348 words. So this is a transition word. Even though he was selected, he knew the perfect candidate, this project presented an obstacle. There's definitely contrast here. It is not furthermore at any rate. It's not for example. This is no change. Definitely no change. It's just contrast. However, Geisel started 2 stories only to abandon them when he found that he needed to use words that were not on his list. On the verge of giving up, Geisel's story finally hit upon an image that became its basis: a cat wearing a battered stovepipe hat. All right, this question, you should recognize this right away. This is an introductory clause, on the verge of giving up. It's a dependent clause. It's introducing a subject. You don't have the subject. Whenever you see this is an automatic question. Whatever is being described in this dependent clause, this introductory phrase, you need the subject immediately after. On the verge of giving up. So who was giving up? It wasn't a story. That doesn't make any sense. It is a person. Let's take a look at the choices. It's not an image. It's not a story. It has to be C. You could just look at this first word and get this right. On the verge of giving up. Who was giving up? On the verge. Geisel finally hit upon the image that became the basis for his story. This is an automatic question, so just make sure you look out for that. His main character established. Geisel commenced the difficult task of writing a book with a limited vocabulary. At the end of a duration of 9 months, The Cat in the Hat was complete. So number 8, at the end of a duration of 9 months. This is definitely bulky and redundant. Why do you have to say at the end of a duration of 9 months when you can just say after 36 weeks or 9 months? Even worse. After a length of 9 months had elapsed. Why not just say 9 months later? Much more direct and concise. D for that one. All right, new paragraph. We'll just finish up this passage. The book was a hit. Children were entertained by its plot about the antics of a mischievous cat and is captivated by its eye-catching illustrations and memorable rhythms and rhymes. And so here, children were entertained, right? That is the past tense, by its plot about the antics of a mischievous cat, and you can't switch, doesn't make sense with the present tense. And this is actually the past participle. They were entertained and captivated. You don't need a verb here. You've already got the were, entertained, and right? That's the conjunction that linked the two. You want to be parallel, captivated. This is another past participle. So we're entertained and captivated. You don't need another verb, and it's certainly not these forms, was or has been. You just delete it. We're entertained and captivated, so it's D. Its sales inspired another publishing company, Random House, to establish a series for early readers called Beginner Books, which featured works by Giesel and other writers, and other publishers quickly followed suit. In the years that followed, many talented writers and illustrators of children's books imitated Giesel's formula of restricted vocabulary and whimsical artwork. So this one here, we definitely don't need a period. In the years that followed, this is a dependent clause. You just have a comma here and then put many writers. You can't have a semicolon. We talked about you need two independent clauses. It's a comma splice if you have a comma with, or not the em dash is similar to the semicolon. The answer is definitely C. You've got the dependent clause. You can put the comma and now read it. In the years that followed, dependent clause, comma, many talented writers. So this one is definitely good. The answer is C. And the last question. But perhaps the best proof of the Cat in the Hat success is not its influence on other books, but its limited vocabulary and appealing word choices. So again, read the call of the question. We want the writer a conclusion that restates the main themes of the passage. Which choice best accomplishes? Is the whole passage not just its influence on other books, but its limited vocabulary and appealing word choices? No, it's that these books have been around for generations, and it states that the best proof of its success is not just that's influencing these other books. Remember, this was a long time ago. But let's take a look at the choice. Impressive worldwide sales that continue to remain high to this day. This might be tempting, but the whole passage is not about the sales of Dr. Seuss. It's really about the enduring ability to delight children and engage them in learning how to read. Remember, the whole passage, the reason he was selected in the first place was because children weren't reading, and then he created these books that really shifted the direction of children's reading, and it influenced others, and it's enduring to this day. It's delighting children and engaging them in reading. That was the problem. So the answer is C. It's not an important role in the history of illustration. The answer is C.